Hello, my name is David Cavazos, and today I'm going to explain the simulation I created in order to explain and demonstrate the effects of the one child policy. So, first off, the one child policy is a policy that was first implemented in China in the 1980s. This was done with the purpose of controlling the rapidly growing population by limiting each family to giving birth to a maximum of one child. So in here we can see two graphs. One which is China's birth rate per number of people, and we can see that after the two-child policy, it is something that after the one-child policy, sorry, it is something that decreased. However, we can see that still the population grew because even though the rate of people born decreased, this was still a positive rate, which means that the number of people per year was still growing. It was just to regulate the amount of people that will be born in the next years. And this, of course, is something that can be highly effective. And in the case of China, it was extremely effective because they were able to limit the population up to a number that it helped them not only to control and the overpopulation, but also, as you know, there are still a lot of people in China, and controlling this population helped China become one of the largest and most important economies in the world. So in here is the mathematical model I used in my simulation, and this mathematical formula nt equals pe to the power of r divided by time is used to portray the future growth of a population. And here we can see nt represents the number of people at a future time, which is what we're trying to find. P equals the initial population quantity. E is a Euler's number, and this is to the power of r, which is rate of increase, divided by the subtraction of time of future and initial time. So here's an example of how I implemented my simulation in Mexico. So in Mexico, if the one child policy was implemented, um, we can see that the population will decrease because currently the annual population growth is 1.1% with 2.13 children per woman. And the one child policy scenario would involve a 0.517 annual population growth with one child per woman. And by implementing the formula that I just demonstrated, we can find that in 2022, with the one child policy, there would be 128.261 million people in 2022. By implementing the same formula with the current prospects and without the one child policy, there would be 600,000 more people born in 2022. So in here is the simulation I made. I made it in Google Sheets, and the way I made it is so it can calculate the one child policy population each year automatically by using formulas, the same formula I used presented earlier, and to compare it with the prospect population, and then graph it in this chart. So in here we can compare each year of the one child policy population to the prospect population. And for example, if we go all the way to 2050, we can find that with the one child policy population, there would be 148.2 million people in Mexico compared to the prospect projection of 170.5 million. So this means that with the one child policy, there would be 22 million people less in the country. And here we can see the graphical data in order to compare it in a more simple way. So this is just an example of my simulation being implemented. The interactive version of my simulation is in here, and in here you can insert any values for input. And let's say I want to simulate a population of 330 million people, so I insert 330 with an, let's say, annual population rate of growth of 2%. So I insert 0.002, and let's say that the child per woman ratio is 2.4. In here, the program would compare and demonstrate the population per year and compare the one child policy population to the current prospect population. And we can see the results. So let's say in 2035, there would be around 5 million people less with the one child policy than the current prospect population. And if we go all the way to 2050, there would be around 12 million people less. So, as demonstrated by my simulation, the one child policy can be extremely effective. It does regulate a lot. It does heavily regulate the future population growth, and it is something that can reduce the future population by millions of people, and it can definitely mitigate a lot of problems that do come with overpopulation. And one of these problems is pollution and the destruction of our world. And overpopulation is probably what is the worst thing for when it comes to global warming, climate change, pollution, and all these things that are harming the world. And implementing a one child policy would mitigate a lot of these problems. And it is something that should definitely be considered, at least in the future, or maybe now, with countries that are on the danger of overpopulation. And as demonstrated by my simulation, a one child policy would reduce population by millions and millions of people.